Hey everybody, welcome to the Couples and Intimate Relationships Topical Interest Network July webinar entitled Recipe for a Secure Functioning Relationship, an overview of the PACT couple therapy model. Being presented today by Margaret Martin. I think it's going to be a really great webinar. I think everybody's going to be pretty excited about it and what you're going to learn today. But before we go ahead and begin, I just want to let you know about some of those kind of housekeeping items. If you are interested in getting your CEs for this workshop, you'll need to check in for the webinar on the AAMFT mobile app or using the website certs.aamft.org. That's certs.aamft.org, and use the session ID 71994. Now you're probably like, hey, I didn't have a pencil on me during that time to be able to write that down. I'm gonna go ahead and copy those instructions into the chat function with a link, so that way there you can just go ahead and click on it and be able to fill out your survey at the end to be able to get your CE credits. As Margaret's presenting, she's going to be going through a ton of information, and I'm sure that you're going to have lots of questions. There is a little button near the bottom of your screen in the Zoom window that says Q&A. We'll be using that function so that you can send your questions over, which I will then moderate near the end of the webinar in a discussion with Margaret, so that way there we can hopefully get through, and if many people have the same questions, then they can all be answered at the same time. After the presentation, you'll still be able to ask any questions or anything that's going on, so please don't be shy. The more interactive you are, the better the presentation and the more you'll get out of it. And also, one last thing there, Margaret has graciously agreed to share the presentation with all of you, so that will be coming to you by email before the end of the day. I'll be sharing a PDF of the slides with you. So now that all of that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get the webinar started. I'll be turning it over to Margaret, who is just an amazing presenter and has a wonderful personality. I'm sure you guys are just going to love this. She has studied for over 8 years under Stan Tatkin, founder of the PACT model. In addition to this, she's done intensive and advanced training across a number of other specialties and modalities, including intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, somatic experiencing, emotional transformation, EMDR, cognitive behavioral, deep therapy, and mindfulness work, among many others. So as you can tell, she is a self-described neuroscience geek and loves learning about the latest research regarding how our brains function and how that applies to the healing process. So I think it's needless to say, but we're very lucky to have Margaret providing this training for us, and we're in for a real treat today. So with that having been said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Margaret, and I'm going to pop out, but feel free to leave those Q&As for me, and I'll be moderating those at the end of the workshop.
Okay, good deal. Thanks. So I hope I can live up to that lovely introduction. We'll see. I'm realizing, so I have this wonderful fancy camera that is autofocus, and okay, now I'm back in focus. So I kind of go in and out of focus sometimes if I move too much. So sorry if I get unfocused, literally and figuratively. Hopefully I'll come back and focus again. So PACT stands for a psychobiological approach to couple therapy. And okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, people are difficult. All people are difficult. If we think we're not difficult, we are deluding ourselves. PACT was designed to help the most difficult couples. We've all had them in our offices. We may even have been them in some other therapist's office at some time. So this is the PACT Serenity Prayer. This is the prayer that when you have the really difficult couples in your office and you're PACT trained, you may find yourself saying this. I am a couple therapist. These people chose each other. They are in each other's care. They are not my problem. My job is to point them towards secure, functioning relationship. Wash, rinse, repeat. When you have some of the most difficult couples in your office, really being able to say like this mantra to be able to step back a little bit can really be helpful. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about today may sound a little pathologizing or a little bit snarky, because we're going to talk about some of what really wounded people, how they show up in the office. So it's not pathologizing, it's not snarky, it's understanding where people's really problematic behaviors and interactions come from. Because if we don't understand that and we can't find the compassion and empathy for it, we can't help them to become better partners. PACT is all about helping partners have each other's owner's manuals. In order to do that, we need to understand their manufacturing process, which includes attachment, neurobiology, arousal regulation, child development, and trauma. So, psychobiological approach to couple therapy, psychobiology referring to brain and body. We study the brain, including its development and social emotional function. It's a polytheoretical approach that draws on neuroscience, family systems, psychoanalytic theory, techniques from psychodrama and Gestalt, social justice theory, oddly enough, but we'll talk a little bit about that, attachment theory, and, you know, Stan just kind of threw in the kitchen sink for the whole model to make sure he has everything covered. One thing I love about PACT is it's an ever-evolving model. So as new and relevant information and research comes up, you know, about humans, our brains, our development, how we interact with the world around us, as that information comes up and available, it gets incorporated into the model. And although the fundamentals of PACT have remained the same in the 8 years that I've been studying with Stan, the model has evolved and he's made changes over time. So PACT uses developmental neuroscience, arousal regulation theory, and attachment theory. Each domain is equally important. A general understanding of neuroscience comes into play because in session we pay really close attention to the moment-by-moment changes and shifts within partners, as those changes show up through micro-expressions, micro-movements, changes in the voice, body, that sort of thing. We are constantly watching both partners taking in that information, from time to time commenting on it, asking about it. So we need to have a general understanding of that. In PACT, the therapist's understanding of developmental neuroscience bridges attachment and arousal regulation. The awareness of developmental neuroscience puzzle piece is central to understanding the other pieces. So for example, we de-emphasize the verbal content and emphasize the implicit systems as they come up. So what it looks like when they're talking is a lot more important than what they're saying. In fact, one of the first trainings that I was in with Stan, probably first or second year, he showed a video of a couple he had worked with. I don't remember where they were from. And English was not their first language. And they were having an argument, a conflict over something in Stan's office. And he said, just go ahead and speak your native language. And he sat back and watched. And so we watched about 30 minutes of this session where this couple is speaking in a language that none of us understood and that Stan didn't understand. And it was fascinating because by taking the content out, we really had a much different understanding of what's happening in that system, in that moment. The action, the reaction, the micro movements, the micro expressions. And when we're paying too much attention to the content, of what's happening, we really can miss a lot of that. So just a little plug for the importance of seeing and understanding that. It's important to be able to convey to our couples in language they understand basic brain functions, the difference between high cortical, what we refer to as the ambassadors in PACT, frontal lobe, and the subcortical function, or what we refer to as primitives. We seek to understand any neurological deficits that partners may have, including theory of mind, for example, the ability to be curious about who I am, why my brain works the way it does, be curious about your brain, why your brain works the way it does, be curious about why you're reacting to me and the way you're reacting, what you're thinking about, why you're thinking that. There are folks who don't have that ability. That can pose a real problem in a relationship. And if the partner believes that it's just because their partner's a jerk and they don't care about them and they're not interested in what's happening with them and their internal experience, then that's going to cause an even greater problem. If you know that your partner has a lack of theory of mind, if you know your partner is not good at reading faces, this kind of thing, then we can work with that. If my partner can't read my face and I don't know that, I just think that they're purposefully inattentive and uncaring, then that's a problem. A lot of this may seem really basic in some ways, but it's amazing the number of times couples come in and don't know that, or that they've seen multiple other couples therapists who didn't pick up on it. So, oops, I clicked the wrong thing. And I clicked the wrong thing again, sorry. Okay, we also understand that real time is too fast. The interaction that goes on between two people, especially in a romantic relationship, is highly complex. It moves at lightning speed. In the moment, we become victims of our automatic brains. We are always hobbled by fundamental problems involving memory, perception, communication. Things can get crazy when we interact because we don't understand that real time is too fast. Even therapists who know that real time is too fast, and it'd be really nice if we could slow things down a little bit, especially in intense conversations and conflict. Even when we know that, we tend to forget it in the moment. And most certainly our couples do, especially if they don't already know that. So things get crazy when we interact. We don't understand that real time is too fast, and we're forced into a position to act reflexively and automatically. Our primitives take over. We're reacting according to memory, according to implicit memory. And while automation is good for day-to-day operations, it can get us in trouble when we're in distress and when we're dealing with each other, particularly a romantic partner. So again, this is the kind of stuff we really pay close attention to in session with partners. I told Chris, I felt like I should apologize in advance. This is what happens when a 53-year-old woman discovers Bitmojis, and that you can actually put them in a PowerPoint presentation. So I was having fun with Bitmojis. And there's another one. In real time, we mostly don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it. That's our primitives at work. Or subcortical function. Therefore, we're put into a position to make things up. Our high cortical at work. I mean, how many times something happens, subcortical is responding, and then, you know, slowly the frontal lobe catches up. It's like, hey, man, what's going on here? What just happened? Well, the frontal lobe may not really know, but the frontal lobe doesn't like being left out of the story, and it's going to make something up to explain what happened. And that may or may not be true, may or may not be reality. So this is particularly true in romantic relationships, romantic partnerships. Also happens a lot with siblings, happens a lot with parents and kids. I have a almost 17-year-old. Never had that experience with her. So when partners don't know and understand this, they can get into real trouble. They begin attributing all kinds of meaning to their partner's actions and reactions. You said that because, well, maybe and maybe not. Chances are pretty good that they didn't, because whatever the story is, we're making up. Usually the story we make up is not in our partner's best interest. I tell my couples that all the time. So auto-regulation, I feel like I just skipped something. Did I? Nope, I didn't. Okay, auto-regulation, or arousal regulation, sorry. Here we're referring to our moment-to-moment ability to manage our energy, our alertness, and our readiness to engage. Up-regulation, down-regulation. We help partners understand each other's style of regulation and to learn to help each other with one's highs and lows. This can be anything from just the highs and lows that we have throughout the day, normal excitement and, kind of low energy, to the folks who go from 0 to 60 in an argument, or when they're confused, or any situation, and or the folks who just go into collapse. So we look at this, we look for this, we understand it, and we explain it to partners. We want to know what it looks like when partners are in their window of tolerance and when they're dysregulated. Of course, when we're working with a high conflict couple, we see a lot more dysregulation than we do window of tolerance. Sometimes those windows of tolerance are really, really small, and we want to work to push them open. So we look at breathing cues, eyes, posture, vocal, skin, muscle tone, dry mouth, if someone's taking lots of sips of water, if someone suddenly has to get up and use the bathroom, those kinds of things. Those give us information about people being outside of their window of tolerance. Ideally, partners are able to flex in and out of different states of arousal throughout a session. A dysregulated state provides us with information. We want to be able to see that. We don't necessarily want to spend an entire session there, but we want to be able to see what that looks like. How easily and quickly do they go there? How long do they stay there? What does it take to get out? Are they able to get themselves out? Are they able to help get each other out? What happens when one goes down? Is the other able to kind of hold on for a little bit longer before they go down too? So when our clients, whether individual or couples, are in the upper range of the window of tolerance, or pushing just up against the top of it, they're in the peak range for learning and growth. So we want to have people be there, and we do want to see what it looks like when they're, when they pop out. But if they spend too much time outside of that, then they're not going to get anything out of it. So, although we want to know what they look like when they're dysregulated, we don't want to spend too much time there. If they're too comfortable or too dysregulated, nothing changes. They don't grow, they don't learn. This is helpful for couples to have. Guessing you've probably had a lot of couples where one partner expects the other partner to function when they're completely dysregulated. I know I've had those couples. Or high conflict couples who fight against getting more regulated. I've had several couples like this where I'm trying to help them regulate, teach them how to regulate, and boy, they don't want to do it. They are staying in that angry state, and you cannot make me feel better, no way, no how. And then they wonder why they aren't making change, why the therapy's not working, why they keep having the same arguments over and over again. And part of that, there are a lot of reasons for that. And to some extent, that's a form of acting out. We don't have therapeutic alliance. And they're not going to get better because they're way outside the window of tolerance. So they're in this constant state of re-traumatizing themselves and each other, and just getting more and more stuck in that dance that they've been doing. So there are 4 types of arousal regulation that we talk about in PACT. There's auto-regulation, external regulation, interactive or co-regulation, and self-regulation. Auto-regulation, do you guys remember, what's his name? Winston? I don't know, anyway, from the Tom Hanks movie. Okay. Auto-regulation is a process of self-management. It is internally focused. It's energy conserving. It does not involve interactions with people. It is somewhat dissociative. It's a non-social strategy in the sense that it does not require another person. For example, someone who manages themselves by self-stimming, self-soothing, not only do they not require somebody else to help them with that, they probably don't want anyone else around. These people are used to spending a lot of time on their own. They think it's good for them. They think they're comfortable with it. Examples include playing video games, watching TV, compulsive masturbation, compulsive eating. Want to be clear, I'm not saying that just watching TV or playing video games is always auto-regulation. It's the folks who spend an awful lot of time there, and they think that it helps them calm down, relax. We tend to see this more with folks who spend a great deal of time alone as children, or in families where feelings aren't allowed. It's more common in an avoidant attachment style. External regulation. Infants rely on external regulation. When we're born, our sympathetic nervous system is on board. That's why babies cry and let you know that they need something. But the parasympathetic nervous system, the brakes, have not developed. Infants rely on their primary caregivers to help them regulate and thus develop their own internal regulation ability. Individuals who rely on external regulation as adults may have had parents who were spilling out over the top and were unable to provide good external regulation for the infant or child. And the child did not develop an effective internal regulation system. So they didn't get that, they didn't internalize the ability to regulate themselves or to do it well or in a healthy way. And so the person grew up to rely on others for regulation. They may believe that they are co-regulating, and they may be able to do some of that, but they're really doing a lot more external regulation, relying on other people, but not in a mutual way. In their case, there's not a whole lot of co-regulation, it's external. These individuals can be exhausting for their partners and often appear very needy. So this is one of the examples that I was talking about earlier when I said this can sound kind of pathologizing. It can sound like we're, you know, as we talk about these things, really not coming from a strengths perspective with the clients. We also need to understand what their deficits and limitations are. If we understand that a partner grew up in an environment where they learn to auto-regulate, spend a whole lot of time by themselves, don't like being interrupted when they're auto-regulating, don't know how to co-regulate, don't really know how to provide external regulation for a partner. When we understand that, we can translate that for partners, because that can look really bad to the partner. They don't, you know, they don't understand that. They feel dropped, they feel abandoned, they feel like their partner doesn't care. It's not that, it's that their partner doesn't know how. The same thing with external regulators. So someone grew up, they don't have that internal ability to self-soothe, they don't have that ability to regulate themselves, to self-regulate or co-regulate. So they go popping around from relationship to relationship, not in relationships that last very long because they look really needy, trying to get that external regulation When we understand that, we can convey that to the partner. We work on them developing the ability to co-regulate over time. May recommend some individual therapy or other ways for that external regulator to learn to self-regulate and co-regulate, and for the auto-regulator. But we need to understand it. We need to understand what we're saying, what we're looking at. You know, one of the things I tell people is, good news is it can heal. We're not stuck with this. Interactive regulation or co-regulation engages the orbital frontal cortex, the ventral vagal system. It occurs face-to-face in a two-person system. Self-regulation, on the other hand, is a pro-social strategy that focuses on self-management. I manage myself so I can better maintain social engagement with others. A PACT therapist, or any therapist for that matter, needs to be skilled at self-regulation. In couples therapy, the therapist is the external regulator in the session. We want couples to be able to co-regulate, but if they could do that effectively, they probably wouldn't have come to see us in the first place. And so the therapist is providing some external regulation. As I said before, the therapist can and should allow partners to dysregulate. We want to see what that looks like. The therapist should never be the cause of dysregulation. Full disclosure, I have inadvertently been the cause of dysregulation in session because I'm a human. I probably will again. You may have been also. When it happens, we make a repair immediately. That gives us the ability to model making a repair for the partners. When it happens, it should be small. We make the repair. The more trauma-informed we are as therapists, the less likely we are to be the cause of dysregulation. And I want to be clear, causing dysregulation in a session is not the same as stepping on a landmine that you don't know is there. Or a client projecting onto you and then disrupting at the projection. So those may be incidents of dysregulation that involve you. You did not cause them. And again, the more trauma-informed we are, the more we understand the nervous system and we understand the patterns of our clients, the better we are at being able to avoid those landmines that, you know what, they're there. We're going to step on them from time to time. So let's see. Attachment. If it's not one thing, it's your mother. The attachment piece of PACT is based on several understandings. Our relationship with our primary caregivers in the first years of our lives is the blueprint for all the relationships that come after. If we received a faulty blueprint, it can be healed. Yay! We heal relationship wounds within relationships. People are hurt by people, and only people can repair those injuries. No one is better positioned to repair injuries than the primary relationship partner. And the couple therapist can promote this. The relationship is mostly governed by procedural memory. That goes back to the whole thing about we think we know what we're doing, but we really don't know what we're doing much of the time. Our procedural memory is at work. Implicit memory is at work. And that memory includes everyone and everything of emotional importance in our life, throughout our lives. So it's all replaying over again in the moment with our partners. How an infant learns to regulate their caregivers determines that individual's attachment style. Our attachment style is predictable by the time we're 12 months old. 12 months old. So it influences our expectations, anticipations, as well as our expressiveness, thought process, speech pattern, state shifting, openness, movements, and meta complaints. Meta complaints. They may appear situational, but they are global and they're not so easily managed. Meta complaints could also be thought of as the meaning we make of something. For example, when my husband leaves his socks out, I interpret it as meaning that my opinion doesn't matter. If my opinion mattered, he would put his socks in laundry. The problem is that couples think they're arguing about socks, or sex, or money, or time, or kids, or mess. They don't understand that what they're arguing about is an old attachment wound. Things like, I don't matter. I'm not seen. These kinds of things. So the same argument happens over and over again because it's not really about socks. Oh, fun facts. They're not coming up. Oh, okay. Nothing is more difficult than another person. All people are annoying. There's no such thing as a low maintenance person up close. Like really, we may think we're low maintenance. When it really gets down to it, we're not. We pair bond by recognition and familiarity. Therefore, partners are more alike than not. Real time is extremely fast. We talked about that, and that we mostly don't know what to do. And so we make it up. Narratives cannot be trusted. Things are hardly ever what they seem, and 99% of your day is automatic. When we understand this, we better understand what's happening in the pair relationship. PACT is a capacity model. It's not a conflict model. So we pay attention to what people can and cannot do well in the social emotional arena. In addition to paying special attention to the nervous system and arousal and regulation, we have a good working knowledge of the neuroendocrine system, the autonomic nervous system, cranial nerves, and various memory systems. Also, if we're working psychobiologically, we need to know something about medication, some understanding of medical maladies and how those can affect a person and affect their interactions with their primaries. So what I was talking about earlier, things like theory of mind or lack of theory of mind, face blindness, things like that. So those aren't necessarily medical maladies. Those are other kinds of deficits, but there are other medical issues, addictions with addiction, issues with medications that people are taking, things like that. We need to have a general working knowledge of that. You know, and you work in this field, you probably have that. Okay, so in PACT, we promote what we call a secure functioning model of relationship. Secure functioning does not require partners to have or be securely attached. They don't have to have a secure attachment style. If they did, who would we help? It does require that partners adhere to the principles of a secure functioning relationship, which we will be getting into. So secure functioning partners understand that they're in the foxhole together. You know, during these times with quarantine and COVID-19, in some ways we really are in a foxhole with each other. You have probably seen a lot more stress, anxiety, dysregulation in the couples that you're working with over the last 3 months. I know I certainly have. Anytime we're in consultation group with Stan, that's one of the first things we talk about. How is everybody doing? How are your couples doing? Are we seeing increases in domestic violence? That sort of thing. So secure functioning partners understand that they're in the foxhole together. Our survival, social survival, emotional survival, and in many ways our physical survival depends on having secure functioning relationships. We want couples to understand they are in each other's care. That's a phrase we use all the time with couples. you are in each other's care. If you're not, there's a problem. If you're not, why be together? If this isn't somebody you want to be in the foxhole with, why not? Can they become someone you want to be in the foxhole with? Because that's the reality of life and, you know, being in a partnership. This is not moving. There we go. Okay, anyone can have secure functioning relationships. And again, that's not moving. Okay, here we go. That's Stan and Tracy at the top. Sorry, that took a while. So there are also secure functioning relationships don't just refer to couple partnerships, romantic relationships. So you can have coworker couples have secure functioning relationships. Best friends have secure functioning relationships. Non-romantic partners can have secure functioning relationships. Childhood partners. Puppet partners. Stan put this in. I have no idea why. He likes puppets. Police partners. Homeless partners. A secure functioning relationship is interdependency based on mutual survival and thriving. It means making a quick repair and amends or error correction. It incorporates principles of social justice, fairness, justice, sensitivity. It's a two-person psychological system as opposed to a one-person psychological system. I'll explain that more in a minute. It's what you learned in kindergarten: cooperation, collaboration, mutuality. And it means being an adult. And I want to say just a little bit more about this for a minute, because a lot of this seems really obvious. For those of you who may have grown up in a securely attached family, this may come as second nature. Not things that people have to think about. You grew up in a securely attached family, you know how to make a repair, you know how to do it quickly, you know how to have your partner's back. You expect that your partner has your back. You know how to adult. But, you know, not all of us grew up in a securely attached family. And I would venture a guess that a lot of therapists did not grow up in securely attached families. If we had, we might not have become therapists to start with. So even though a lot of this sounds like something we should already know, or that our clients should already know, if they did, they wouldn't need us. Or they might know it in theory, they might like the idea of it, but they don't understand how to do it in real life. I have so many couples that come to us, and you know, they've listened to Your Brain on Love or read some of Stan's books, and they're saying, oh yeah, I want that, and I know how to do that. My partner doesn't know how to do that, but I know how to do that. So I'm here for you to teach my partner how to do that. And guess what? They don't really know how to do it either. They think they do, they like the idea of it, but when it really gets down to it, you know, they're doing a lot of the same stuff their partner does. So a little more about a two-person psychological system. I think I've got more about this on a slide later, but I'm going to go into it now anyway. So a one-person psychological system says, what's good for me is good for me, and I don't really give a flying about what's good for you. And there are people in partnerships, people who are married, who really have that belief. And if that works for them, that's great. It's not secure functioning. If they come to see a PACT therapist and they expect that they're going to maintain that view and stay in therapy with a PACT therapist, that's not going to work, because what PACT therapists are selling is secure functioning relationship. That's what we plant our flag for. This is secure functioning. This is what I'm going to teach you. If you don't want this, that's totally fine, but you need to find another therapist, because I can't help you. And, you know, I don't usually say that right away, but there are times when we really do get down into that. When it becomes obvious, things like, you know, this is crazy that this has actually happened. You know, my wife doesn't want me to give up my girlfriend, or my wife wants me. Sorry, came out wrong. My wife wants me to give up my girlfriend, and I just really don't want to. And so I think, you know, there's got to be a way that we can work this out, you know, and stay married. But, you know, I want to stay married, but I'm not going to give up my girlfriend. Okay, well, that's not secure functioning, and there may be some other therapists that can try and help you with that, but that's a deal breaker, and so, or that stops at the door. So a two-person system, that's a one-person system. A two-person system says, we're in this together. We're in the foxhole together. We're in each other's care. What's good for me needs to be good for both of us. What's good for you needs to be good for both of us. One of the examples that I give a lot is if my partner needs 20 to 30 minutes of, you know, uninterrupted transition time between coming from work to home, back when we used to go to the office, which we don't anymore. Now, my work is here in my spare bedroom, and his work is in the den. So we come home a lot faster. Anyway, if what my partner needs is 30 minutes of uninterrupted downtime, 20 to 30 minutes, it doesn't matter if I agree with that. It doesn't matter if I think that that's silly and I'm like, I don't get 20 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted time, or I don't need that, so I don't understand why you need that. Okay, that's a one-person system. A two-person system says, oh, you know what, honey? I get a more attentive and intact husband, and our daughter gets a more attentive and intact dad when we ensure that you get that time. And I love you, and I want you to have that time because I want you to be the best you can be, and I want me to be the best I can be. And when each of us are the best, then our kid is functioning at her highest level as well. Because mom and dad are the or mom and mom, or dad and dad, the parents are the co-regulators of the household, the master regulators of the household. When we do well together, things fall into place. So in a two-person psychological system, it behooves me to make sure that my partner is doing well. That's not the same as codependency. Codependency means that I am cutting off parts of myself to make sure that my partner does well. And that's not necessarily good for my partner either. We get a lot of questions about the difference between secure functioning and codependency. They definitely are not the same. Okay, in a secure functioning relationship, partners put the relationship first. Partners are collaborative. They're good stewards of their safety and security system. So they don't make threats to the relationship. They don't say during a fight, I want a divorce. There's mutual protection in private and public. They don't throw each other on the bus. They don't insult each other. If they do something like that, they repair very quickly. If my partner is uncomfortable in social situations, I don't abandon her at a party. That's an example of protecting each other in public and private. Quick repairs of injuries. As simple as, oh, I'm so sorry. I see that hurt your feelings. In a secure function relationship, partners are the first to know anything that happens. They're each other's go-to person. They use attraction, not fear. So I don't use intimidation to motivate my partner. I know what motivates him or her positively, and I do that. And they manage thirds properly. We talk about thirds a lot in the PACT model. Thirds are anything that can come between partners. Kids, stepkids, in-laws, work, exes, friends. And this goes back to the top, which is partners put the relationship first. So a lot of the couples that come in to see us, and I'm sure you all see this all the time, is they have difficulty managing thirds. Somebody is too aligned with their parents, and they don't stick up for their partner. With the parents, they let the parents, the in-laws, kind of trash talk the partner, or kids, favorite one, a lot of conflict around kids, and the parents, the partners don't feel like they have each other's back with the kids. Well, you know how that goes, because then the kids know how to split the parents. So we do a lot of work managing thirds, that there needs to be no daylight between partners. And then thirds are much less of a problem. Let's see, partners are good co-regulators. They're able to create and mutually amplify a positive moment and mutually reduce negatives. They're skilled at quickly shifting one another's state. They accept each other as burdens. We are all burdens. Goes back to one of the things I said at the beginning. We are all assholes some of the time. It is unfortunate that it's true. We accept that about each other. We accept the inheritance of each other's past wounds, of the wounds that we all come to our relationships with, the baggage we bring. We accept that. They understand where their partner came from in a secure functioning relationship, how the past shows up in the relationship. I often tell couples that if they didn't marry an asshole, there must be another explanation for the behavior, with the understanding of what I said earlier, that we're all jerks or assholes part of the time. Sorry, I cuss a little bit. If they did marry a jerk, I can't help them. Like a total jerk, like sociopath, I can't help them. That's another kind of therapy. So an example, people who can't make an apology, or just, I mean, there are some people who like can't say I'm sorry to save their lives, and other people do. I know you've seen this, well, I'm sorry, your feelings were hurt, a really crappy apology. So it's really easy to look at that and be like, oh, what a jerk. There I am, make an apology. How hard is that? Chances are really good they grew up in a family where nobody apologized. It's a completely foreign language to them, or they grew up in an environment where apology, to be sorry for something, to make a mistake means failure or means beating. There are any number of things like that, and we really have to understand where that's coming from and work with that. Work with the developmental trauma, work with physical abuse trauma, whatever it is that shows up, because it is affecting the partnership. And someone may know, oh, my partner, nobody said they were sorry when my partner's growing up. I know that, sure, okay, whatever. But they don't understand the real implications of that in the relationship. That doesn't mean that the partner doesn't have to learn how to make a repair. What it means is I have a different understanding of where it came from. Primary attachment relationships are inherently transferential and projective. We do what we know, whether it fits the here and now or not. Partners are always projecting onto each other. I project onto my husband projects onto me. Doesn't matter that I'm a therapist, doesn't matter that I've done 20 some odd years of psychotherapy, done my own work over the years. I still project. My family of origin still shows up. A lot less than it did before I'd done 20 some odd years of psychotherapy, but it still shows up. Insecure functioning relationship. Partners know and accept themselves and seek to become experts on each other. They have each other's owner's manual. They understand that their partner came with pre-installed buttons thanks to their family of origin. We did not install the partner's buttons. But it's our job to know where they are, where they came from, and to avoid pushing them. And I want to clarify that also. There are times when you can't avoid pushing them. There are times when those wounds really need to be healed. They're going to get pushed no matter where the person goes, no matter what happens. But the partners who know where the buttons are and are intentionally pushing them, or they're buttons that, you know, if I know they're there and I know how to avoid it, it's really not a big deal to do it. I just need to know to do it. That's a lot of what we're working with. In secure functioning, partners can articulate their purpose for coupling, what they do for each other that no one else wants to do or can do, but they can't hire anybody else to do. And it needs to be more than love and attraction, shared interests, things like that. Oh, we're together because we just love each other so much, or the sex is really good, or we really have the same values. That's all great, but it can change. And it does change. We get old, fat, wrinkly, a lot less interesting. Our values can change. So what are the other reasons that people are together? Because we both believe in telling each other everything, because we have each other's back. Because I know that this person is going to be here. They're going to show up. They want to show up. Partners function as adults. They are differentiated, individuated, interdependent versus dependent, and they're able to tolerate loss. They have social contracts based on true mutuality. Two-person psychological system. It's good for me. It's good for you. Okay. Organized attachment can be insecure or secure. In an insecure attachment, there may be a one-person system. It is unfair. The person may be functioning in a one-person system, sorry. So their belief of the world is one-person system, which is unfair, unjust, and insensitive. In a secure, organized attachment, the person wants and seeks and creates a two-person system, which is fair, mutual, and sensitive. This is where the social justice piece as a contributing factor to PACT comes in. Fairness, mutuality, sensitivity, all aspects of social justice, and we want that in our relationships as well. And the real person of secure functioning is to reduce allostatic load, and this is particularly relevant now, with so much at stake for so many people on physiological, social, environmental, community, and economic levels. You know, it's the end of July, starting sometime in March, the world just kind of became a dumpster fire. And it's just gotten worse every time. And so people are really in the foxhole together right now. And we are seeing impacts on allostatic load all the time. So yeah, it's a really big deal. All of this affects people's physiology, the stress, the toll that it takes. So key factor in reducing allostatic load is a secure relationship. And these slides are backwards, I'm sorry. So allostatic load refers to the wear and tear on the body that accumulates when we're exposed to repeated or chronic stressors. Stressors can be internal, external, or both. Stress is the physiological response of the body to psychological and environmental challenges. Stress is subjective. No two people will respond in exactly the same way to either psychological or environmental challenges. And that really matters with couples because, I mean, how many times have you seen one partner say, well, I just don't understand why they don't get upset the way I do when X, Y, or Z happens. Partners often experience that as being invalidating. You know, if you don't experience it the way I experience it, then either that means there's something wrong with you, or you're implying that there's something wrong with me. A lot of times, my reaction, or what I tell couples in session is, that's an indication that there's not room for more than one mind or more than one brain. It's often an indication that somebody grew up with a narcissistic parent where there was not room for more than one mind. But it's important to understand that stress is subjective, that not everybody reacts to it in the same way, and that that's okay. Partners often have a really hard time with that. In particular, insecurely attached partners. Securely attached partners should be okay with that. They typically are. Insecurely attached partners, not so much. And according to Bruce S. McEwen, PhD, who coined the phrase allostatic load, two of the most important interventional approaches target activity and social integration. So social contact, social integration, secure functioning relationships definitely influence the impact of allostatic load. Okay. In PACT, this is therapeutic stance, the overarching goal. In PACT, we plant our flag for secure functioning, and we keep it there. We don't deviate. We continue to corral the couple towards secure functioning. We make the assumption that they can do it unless proven otherwise. A lot of times couples will say, oh, we can't do that, or I can't do that. So we need to see it, show me. We're going to test it. We're going to verify, verify, verify. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Therapeutic stance. The couple only advances when the therapist expects secure functioning. Again, we plant our flag for secure functioning. This is our goal. This is our aim. You want something else, you're going to have to see someone who's not a PACT therapist, because this is what we do. And we abide by the guidelines of secure functioning. If you want to keep secrets from your partner and your partner doesn't want you to, that's not secure functioning. Secure functioning is we tell each other everything. We find the balance between assuming the couple can do it and verifying what they say about their abilities and capacity. So we expect secure functioning. We test and see if they can do it. We push them towards it, and then help them teach them when they really don't have the capacity for that. Secure functioning is evidenced by the therapeutic alliance. So we're all on the same page with regard to the frame, the roles, and the task. The couple and the therapist is all on the same page. This is what we're doing here. What is our goal? Why are we here? We expect the couple to be collaborative and cooperative. We address it when they aren't. Acting out should not be rewarded. It's a sign of a poor therapeutic alliance. We put pressure on and maintain it to move couples towards secure functioning. Secure functioning competes with addictions, compulsions, lying, and cheating. They cannot coexist. Those cannot coexist in a secure functioning relationship. So, any treatment model provides a framework to answer two primary questions. What is it? What do we do about it? What is this thing that we're looking at? How do we define it? And then what are we going to do? In PACT, we use a forensic-like interview process to explore these areas. We are investigators. Our first task, an ongoing task, so it's where we start, but it's also what we continue with throughout the work, is to find out, who are these people? What do they really want? What are they up to? And let's be clear, this isn't to ascribe some malicious, malignant, malevolent motivation. Do you like that, how I did that? A malicious, malignant, or malevolent motivation to everybody who walks in our door. So asking, who are these people? What are they up to? What do they really want? It's to be curious. It's to wonder and to test any hypothesis we have and to test what they tell us. Do you really tell each other everything? Do you really have each other's backs? They say they have each other's backs, but then they come in and start throwing each other under the bus in front of me, and I'm a stranger. They don't have a coherent narrative. They're talking about the same situation, the same event, but it's as if they're telling two completely different stories, like they're two different places. Excuse me, no coherent narrative. So these are the kinds of things we look for. This gives us information. This tells us who they are, what's happening here. And then we can ask them about that. What do they really want? People come into therapy with all sorts of complaints, for example, money, and say things that sound like they have meaning. But when we diligently try to find out what they're talking about and watching them and how they interact with each other, we find out that the content areas are rarely the problems. That goes back to meta complaints. So if we only listen to the narratives and believe what they're telling us, then we're in danger of going down a rabbit hole and misunderstanding what's in front of us. So we are big on evidence and proof. A lot of continually asking ourselves, what am I saying? And we assume, not because people are malicious or malevolent, but we assume that they're not necessarily telling us the truth, because they either don't know the truth, they don't want to know the truth, they're in denial, and so it's our job to be sleuths. We put them under a certain amount of stress and have them talk about an argument that they had earlier in the day, earlier in the week, look at what's happening in their bodies, the somatic reactions. Does the narrative match what's happening in their bodies? Someone looks very aggressive, but their narrative is that they are put upon by their partner. That's not what we're saying. A partner says that their partner is dismissive of them, but does this constantly while they're listening to their partner. So this gets us closer to what's really happening, because if we just buy into what they're telling us, we're really going to miss a lot. So we get down to the granular level. Let's see. So narratives lie. Real time is too fast. People don't know what they're doing much of the time. Oh, I kind of talked about this. In the absence of knowing, people make shit up. People also lie. Memories are shaped by present state, and state changes perception. And things are rarely what they seem. The issue of memory is so important. Memory is completely unreliable. I mean, just not completely, well, it can be. Just really unreliable. And I tell partners this all the time. If I think I know what happened, and I think I know what my partner did or said, and the order in which it occurred when we were in an argument, that's not reality. It just isn't. Memories are shaped by the present state, and the state changes our perception. And we all have our own perception that we bring with us, our own expectations, our own projections, and that affects memory as well. So the narrative lies. ahead. Okay. Just a little break here for a minute to talk a little bit before I go on about why PACT therapists love the model. I was asking several colleagues who've been PACT therapists for a long time why they love PACT. Because, basically, what do you tell people when you're trying to convince them to take a PACT training? And so these are some of the comments that people came up with. Simply, I'm a PACT therapist because I find this model to be the most effective couple therapy approach. Also, I continue to receive training and supervision from Stan because my couples learn how and what it is to be a couple. Some of my clients indicate that it helps them learn how to be a couple and work together in a secure and enduring way. It's simple and they don't have to memorize scripts. They see the results of therapy quickly. Recently, I counseled a couple who's divorced and said that if they had seen me for couple therapy, and they tried many couple therapists before the divorce, they would not have filed for divorce. Other couples shared that they had been to 3 or more couples therapists before seeing me, and the PACT approach is the most helpful by far. I get that a lot. I've heard that many times. People have seen multiple therapists, multiple couples therapists. It's not effective. And they see a PACT therapist and they get to the root of the problem a lot more quickly. I tell people considering taking the training that my results speak for themselves. My couples are happier, learn how to create win-win situations, understand about the attachment and effects of the relationship. I find other approaches are like picking dandelions. The problems will come back, but PACT is getting to the root of the problem. Before I trained in PACT, my couples would complain that they couldn't remember the steps and memorize the right words to say when conflict arose. Let's see. It's the only model that I know of that has very clear principles for a couple to aspire to. Principles of secure functioning. When I describe what secure functioning looks like, couples will say they want it and or they realize that they don't have it. Couple bubble, the win-win agreements, take care of me and you at the same time, or in the foxhole together. If one goes down, we both go down. You're a team, we're collaborative in all things. Sensitivity, fairness, justice, repair immediately, amplify the positive, know how to calm. These principles can be reinforced in every session, and couples can be shown how to behave properly in real time during a session. You expect secure functioning and you're looking for reasons why they can't. The reason they have trouble is reactivity from trauma. I found that if you address the trauma, you calm the reactivity. One of the people said, I'm also an imago therapist. I trained in PACT because I needed more tools to work with high conflict couples. PACT has been immensely helpful to address the reactive brain, what to do and not do as a therapist. Better boundaries as well. One person said, I love that PACT is a no-fault model and that it has taught me where there's one, there's the other. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So PACT is a no-fault model, including when there's betrayal. There's not a good guy and a bad guy. And I know that sounds really crazy to a lot of people. But there, obviously there are problems in a relationship before betrayal happens. And there are many kinds of betrayal, as you know. Financial betrayal, substance abuse betrayal, abuse betrayal, infidelity. So the problems already exist, and then one person really acts out. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't mean that we ignore the fact that there's infidelity. Somebody really crapped on the carpet and they need to clean it up. And the other person decides when it's clean. You don't get to crap on the carpet and then say, well, I cleaned it up. You really ought to be okay with it. No, the other person gets to decide. And the other person at some point is going to have to look the betrayed partner is going to have to look at things like what was going on in the relationship that my partner outsourced. What happened to us that I didn't notice that my partner was starting to rely on people outside the relationship for getting their emotional needs met, things like that. So we look at the whole system and what led up to the betrayal, what needs to happen to repair the betrayal, the understanding that if the betrayed party keeps the betrayer in the doghouse forever, that's not going to work either. That's not going to be secure functioning. So at some point, they have to come out of the doghouse and reestablish some sort of equilibrium. That doesn't mean that, again, that we pretend like it never happened. That means that they have a new relationship from that point on, a different relationship. A lot like what Esther Perel says, the relationship you had is over. Now you need to decide, am I going to have a new, different relationship with the person I'm already married to or already partnered with? So we look at it that way with the understanding that trust has been betrayed, huge mess needs to be cleaned up, the betrayed party decides when the mess is clean, and if the betrayed party decides that the mess is never cleaned up, then that's not secure functioning. That a secure functioning relationship cannot occur in that situation. I have seen secure functioning relationships come out of betrayal. I've also seen marriages end from betrayal, but it's a really beautiful thing, and I'm sure you all have seen this, when a secure functioning relationship, when healing comes out of betrayal. It's a very different relationship. It's really beautiful. Okay, so moving on. Therapeutic interventions. Interventions in PACT test hypotheses and push towards secure functioning. Okay. The PACT model of change. We locate pain. We amplify pain. Oh, this is not clicking. Okay. We amplify pain. We leverage towards secure functioning. We maintain pressure. And wash, rinse, repeat. So that sounds really horrible. We amplify pain. It's like, what are you doing in couple therapy that you're amplifying pain? Well, we need to see what it looks like. That goes back to, we need to see what they look like when they're not in the window of tolerance. We need to see what the pain looks like. And then we use that to move them toward secure functioning. I cannot think of an example off the top of my head. I'm going to have to think about that because I think an example would be a lot more helpful. And I apologize. Maybe we can get to that in the questions. So PACT therapy moves quickly. If we don't see, I tell couples this all the time, if we don't see some sort of progress within the first 6 to 8 sessions, then we need to have some sort of come to Jesus, because either I'm missing something or you're not buying what I'm selling. And what I'm selling is a secure functioning relationship. And we need to get to the root of the problem quickly. PACT specifically focuses on evoking experiences for couples through social cues, movement exercises, conflict enactments, and other psychodramatic techniques. Much of, sorry, I need to take a sip. Much of the therapy is quite active and experiential. We often have long sessions between 2 and 4 hours. We want to move the couple through a variety of states, which are very much like real life, instead of talking about events, we want to enact them. We want to see what they look like. And then help them make the correction in real time while they're in that state of mind. We want to get it in their bones and their muscles, help them create new procedural memory. Procedural memory is actually part of the problem that got them into trouble in the first place, so we want to create new procedural memories. An example of this, a couple tells me that they tend to have conflict when one person comes home from work, walks in the door, and they keep having the same argument over and over again. They're not really sure why. They can tell me about the argument. They can tell me what that looks like, or they can show me. So I'll want them to show me. What does it look like, excuse me, when you walk in the door? So we play that out. This can be annoying for couples. Some couples have a really hard time with this. So we do a lot of it kind of preloading, explaining to them why we do it, how it will help them. Because we get information. Because in that moment, one person can say, oh, and then you turn and, you know, and then maybe I see a look on their face, or they suddenly have a realization. It's like when I was a kid and my mom, blah, blah, blah. Or realizing in that moment, you pet the dog before you greet me and I feel dropped. Oh, okay, that's new information. We could have talked about that repeatedly and not gotten that information without walking through it, literally walking through it, acting it. And then we get to have them do that differently, play it differently. Let's do it again. So yeah, that's an example of locating the pain, amplifying the pain. So we've located it. I feel dropped when you walk in the door. Amplify it. Where does that come from? Oh my God, it's when I was a kid and this happened. Oh, then not only does the partner get to repair that repeated experience of the other partner feeling dropped when they come home, but they also get to provide some repair about that old attachment wound. That goes back to the whole idea that attachment wounds are healed in relationship. We bring these wounds with us to the relationship, and our partners really can help heal them. And if not with our partners, where are we going to do it, right? I mean, we can do it in therapy, and we do it in therapy, but if we can do it with the person that we're spending, hopefully, the rest of our lives with, then how much better? So an example of how that looks is also as the partner really gets in touch with that old pain from childhood, then the other partner can really connect with them. I've had partners say, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And then even say, what are the words that you would have wanted to hear from your mother or whoever it is, that ideal parent protocol that comes up in a lot of the attachment work. Have partners play that out, and that really can provide some amazing healing. So what does a PACT session look like? Partners sit facing each other. I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know why I did that. I was so excited about this fancy slideshow and making all the things pop up, and they're supposed to pop up on their own, and they're not, and I'm having to click them. So partners sit facing each other, and partners and therapists sit in rolling chairs, like office rolling chairs. Sessions are long, between 2 and 4 hours. The therapist video records sessions. I will talk more about that. Sessions are active, including movement, staging. And PACT sessions involve play. Lots and lots and lots of play. That is another thing I love about being a PACT therapist. And I don't think that we have the corner on the market when it comes to play with our couples, but it's really emphasized a lot. We have fun with our couples. I mean, even some of the most high conflict couples I've seen, we have fun together. You really end up falling in love with your couples. Not literally, but just really loving the couples. So facing each other. We have partners facing each other. That way they're able to pay attention to each other as they're talking. They're looking at each other's faces. They're seeing the changes on their faces. This is, again, going back to the micro expressions, the micro movements. If they missed it, I ask, what just happened there? Well, I don't know. Well, are you curious? Let's be curious. This is that sleuth hound. What happened? Why did it happen? Someone is just reading their partner the riot act, and their partner is slowly moving into, a shame drop or a shame spiral. And we say, what's happening here? Well, I don't know. She's upset. Okay, well, let's stop and find out. And again, if your partner is going too far outside the window of tolerance, then they're not hearing, right? The partner's not hearing anything. They're not learning. Might as well not be talking. So having partners sit facing each other, they're seeing each other's facial expressions, and they're really able to learn. This is why it moves so quickly. They get so much more out of it than if they're facing me and talking to me. One of my favorite things is apologies, doing repairs, and being able to say, oh, do you see on your partner's face? You can see on your partner's face when the repair lands. You know when it lands. Oh, wait, did it land yet? No, she's not. No. There it is. And that goes back to the whole idea of, well, I feel like I've made the repair, but you're just not okay yet, as if that's your problem. No, it's the couple's problem. If one partner isn't okay and the other partner has made the repair or thinks they've made the repair, they haven't really, if this partner doesn't feel repaired, then it's a problem for the couple. It's not a problem for the person who isn't repaired. It's a problem for both of them. That's the couple bubble that we talk about a lot in PACT. So the therapist is also sitting in a rolling chair, meaning that we're also in an office chair. We can kind of roll in, do an intervention, roll back, watch what happens. Obviously, in the time of coronavirus, I don't do that anymore because this is where I am. I still have my couples facing each other. I even still will do some movement activities or activities. I make it sound like that's an exercise. Have them show me what an argument looks like. Show me what it looks like when they're, walking in the door or that sort of thing. It means moving the camera around a little bit, but we can work with that when it's important. When we're in the office, therapist is also in a rolling chair. We move in and out. I think I'm actually getting close to the end of my time, so I'm going to move along. Okay, so they're in each other's care also, right? This is what it looks like. There's interactive regulation. We pay close attention to the micro movements of each person. So the therapist is sitting in the chair watching each partner. So cross-tracking, we're looking again at each person. So one person might say, here's what's going on. And as the one partner is saying, here's what's going on, the therapist is looking at both, but is really looking at the other person's face to see, is this a coherent narrative? Are they in agreement? So one partner's talking about what happened or what the problem is that brought them, and the other person's face, maybe they're not saying anything, but you see what's happening in their face. Their face is saying, that's not it. So we stop right there. Wait a minute, what's happened? Does she believe you? Does she agree with you? Why not? Tell me about that. These are some of the things that we do. And here, I disagree. That's not at all what's going on, says the other person. Cross-questioning. We do a lot of cross-questioning. As one partner starts to respond to something or reacts to something, I might say to the other partner, what do you know about her childhood that she's reacting that way? Who treated him like that? Does he always get so excited about things? This creates collaboration, increases collaboration. It also helps us know how much do these people know about each other. Sometimes we'll have people facing each other, looking at each other's faces in the eyes and say, you know, if you really wanted to just bring out the joy in your partner, what would you do? And then have them describe, well, I would make their favorite cake, or I would, you know, take the car in for detailing, whatever it is. Sit and really have a really good conversation with them. And then see, does the partner's face say, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I want. My partner knows me. If they don't know each other, why? Why don't they know each other? Are they curious? Do they want to know? These are all things we want to know. We often go down the middle, make a comment straight down the middle between the two partners. Things like, wow, you guys really aren't very nice to each other. Why is that? Do you guys always argue like this? Let's see. Okay. We evoke problematic mental and emotional states in session and then work with them in real time, kind of like what I was talking about before. We make bold statements to get partners to adjust and correct information according to reality. Bold statements can be things like, she doesn't believe you. Now, we don't say that unless we can verify that. And if we're wrong, you know, back up and apologize. Usually we're not. We have enough information at that point to say, oh, she's not looking like she believes you. Is he lying about this? No, we don't do that right out of the gate. We don't do that before we have some sort of rapport, before we have buy-in. But we also let couples know that this is part of the model. This is how this works. This is why this works quickly and effectively. And like I said, there's also a lot of play. We can do this because we have rapport. We can do this because we have play. So we can make these bold statements because we have their buy-in. And if we don't, then that's a whole different issue. So we prefer to move on inspiration and not pressure. So we don't intervene until we feel called to do so. Sometimes we sit back and watch and wait. Stan refers that to sitting back and eating popcorn, just kind of watching what's going on. So in conclusion, PACT focuses on bottom-up interventions that bypass higher cortical areas. It's the show me psychotherapy. We look for proof. The PACT therapist takes a stand for secure functioning relationship. Secure functioning is is available for all couples despite each partner's working model. Secure functioning will only occur if the couple therapist expects it to. And secure functioning isn't just good for couples, it's good for the world. The whole world is better the more couples have a secure functioning relationship. They raise secure functioning children who make the world a better place as well. And that is that. And so I don't know. Oh, there.
Yes, I'm back too. Hi, Margaret. Thank you so much for that presentation. That was very interesting. I have several questions, but also there's a bunch of people with other questions for you. So
all right.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go through the questions and give you a chance to answer them. And I just wanted to throw it out too, that if there is any question that I propose that you guys sent in to me and I don't necessarily capture it, or you have a follow-up question, feel free to type it either into the chat box or into the Q&A box. I'll monitor both of those. So
yeah, and if there's something that for some reason I can't answer also, because I don't know every little thing in the whole wide world, just a lot of stuff. Just kidding. But if there's something I can't answer, I'm certainly happy to get an answer and get back to you as well, or get a more full answer. So.
Yeah. All right. So the first one, we have a question here. How is this model specifically different than Dr. Sue Johnson's emotional focused therapy model? There's kind of several overlaps there, and you mentioned this a little bit, but I was just wondering if you wanted to cover it a little bit more.
I can a little bit. And so I'm not trained in Sue Johnson's work. I did go to one of her trainings a couple of years ago, specifically on working with trauma with couples. One of the big differences, and I saw this showing up just in that training, is a lot of Sue's work is individual therapy with the partner present. So one of the examples that I give in that training, she was dealing with a traumatized couple, and she's saying as part of, now I'm going to have to help him deal with what she's going to tell him. So I as the therapist have to help the husband deal with this painful thing that the wife is about to tell him. In PACT, we would say, oh, no. Unless I'm going home with you, that's not my job. My job is to help the wife help the husband deal with what she's about to tell him. Because otherwise, they're reliant on me, and they don't need to be reliant on me. The goal is to get them reliant on each other. So I'm not trained in EFT, so I can't really speak to that other than that experience and the experience that some of my friends who are EFT trained, and I've shared clients with them, like I see an individual and I see the couple, that's something that has come up, that it's a lot of the therapist really being more involved in the couple than in the PACT model. We don't want that as much. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
I think so. I'll leave that up to the
see if there's a follow-up
side.
Yeah. And one of the things I will say is, I never wanted to be a couples therapist, like ever. Couples scared the hooey out of me. I'm a trauma therapist. I treat complex trauma. I love treating complex trauma. Just kind of funny because that scares the hooey out of a lot of other people. But I really love it. I'm passionate about it. And I kind of got dragged kicking and screaming by a friend of mine who's, she's trained with Stan now for like 12 years. To one of his trainings in 2012, and I said, why would I do this? I don't want to see couples. This is dumb. Why would I want to spend my training time and money doing this? And she said, well, because it'll help you with your work with individuals. And I was like, yeah, okay. You know, so I went. And I trained with Stan for 2 years before I started seeing couples. And I love it. Love it, love it, love it. I'm passionate about it. And I don't know that I would have felt that way in another setting, in another model. That does not mean that other models don't work. This is what I like. This is what works for me. It's what makes sense to me. And you know, as we know, the research says in all models, the model itself is much less important than the relationship with the therapist. That's true for individual and couples work. That's the key component. Now, some of the things that are very specific to PACT, like videotaping sessions. Oh, I said I was going to talk about that and I didn't. I can talk about that a little bit now.
That connects with, by the way, I heard a little bit of feedback saying that you did answer the EFT question very well, but what you're about to talk about too with the video recording does tie in with one of the other questions. So I don't know if it'd be good.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
With talking about the video recording, but also that PACT seems to be very similar to Gottman's model, which is similar to EFT as well. These kind of all tend to overlap.
Yeah.
So that part together, do you know how like maybe Gottman/PACT differ a little bit? And or like, because like for the recording, for example, that seems to be one place where they really overlap.
I don't know. I know that facing each other, rolling chairs for the most part, I don't hear, again, I'm not trained in Gottman, so I don't know. I don't hear that and the cross questioning is a big piece of Gottman. Any effective couple therapy treatment has to have an understanding of, you know, the main components of PACT. If you don't understand attachment theory, if you don't understand interpersonal neurobiology, if you don't understand arousal regulation, then you're in the wrong business, right? It doesn't work. So all of those should be a part of any effective couple therapy. And so I think there's a huge overlap there. The thing that I believe makes it considerably different in PACT, and again, it's hard for me to say because I'm not trained in the other models, is we do a lot of the staging. Show me what this looks like. Let me see. We do a lot of the cross-questioning, and we really do have partners facing each other so that they can see the regulation or dysregulation as it's occurring in real time. And then the videotaping is really, really key. We do that for several reasons. One, and if you've never done this before, a lot of therapists don't videotape. I think many more don't videotape than do. I videotape individual and couple sessions. It makes me a better therapist. It's kind of like having my little observing self back here. I tell my clients, and this is totally true, I'm a better therapist when the tape is running. You know, sometimes we phone it in. Sometimes we have an off day. You're being videotaped. That's harder, you know? It's like, damn, my accountability is right there. The other thing is we can go back and look. If I'm lost in the weeds and I get to the end of a session, I'm like, I don't know what the hell just happened there. I can go back and look. I can get consultation from other PACT therapists. I don't have to try and tell them what happened. I can show them and they can see it and say, oh, wait, Margaret, no, you totally missed this. I have a really good colleague, the friend who dragged me to see Stan the first time. Her name is Krista Jordan. She's fabulous. She's a psychologist here in Austin. We look at each other's work all the time. We're very familiar with it. I was having a really hard time with a couple. They were just a pain in the butt. and she was watching it with me, watching one of the sessions, and she said, you know, we're like 2 minutes in, and she's like, Margaret, your countertransference is out of control. And it's like, oh, yep, you're right. She was able to say that, oops, because she knows me. She knows my work. She knows that what I was looking like in that session with that couple is not what I typically look like. I could have described that all day long, and that would not have been helpful to her. The other thing is we can go back and show couples in real time what an argument looks like. People don't look like what they think they look like. Now we have to be very careful with this. This cannot be shaming. We have to be really careful. But you know, a lot of times if someone has resting bitch face and they don't know it, we can show them gently, carefully, but that's really helpful information. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a really great idea. And I think you've got some comments here about like loving the rolling chair idea and some of these other elements that will, that people are probably going to start incorporating into their work. So there's a couple of questions here that I think are really interesting. You mentioned that it's possible to accidentally cause dysregulation. Could you give an example of what that might look like?
Oh gosh. Yeah, if I'm not leveling the playing field, if I look like I'm siding with one partner over the other, that doesn't go well. That creates some dysregulation. I'm trying to think of some other examples. Just that, you know, when you're in session and you just step in a pile of crap and you're like, damn, I really screwed that up. And now they're...
I don't know about you, but I don't have that issue.
I know. I mean, I've heard that other therapists do that. I personally have never really done that. So I just wanted to, you know, I was told to act a little humble and pretend like I've done that before. But no, I mean, you get to the end of the session and you're like, wow, I blew that one.
Yeah.
And you make a repair really quickly. Or, oh my goodness, I misunderstood. I thought you said this. You know, it's mistakes that can happen. Countertransference, though, if your countertransference is not in check, and I am the biggest advocate of therapists doing their own work. We have to do our own work. Therapists have to get therapy. It's like going to see a dentist that doesn't get their teeth cleaned. Like, I don't get it. And there's no way to have a handle on our countertransference if we haven't done our own work, if we don't continue to do our own work. And so that's a big piece of it. But yeah, when your countertransference is not in check, you can really step in it and create some dysregulation.
So in that same kind of vein of another example, there was a question about, could you potentially give an example of acting out and how that ties into a poor therapeutic alliance?
Yeah. Okay, so acting out is, for example, a couple that I've worked with, well, yeah. A couple continually says, oh, actually, no, backing up. Okay. One partner refuses to talk. I'm not going to go any further until you make an apology to the other partner. I'm done. And the other partner wants me to fix it. I'm not going to. It's not my job to. It's my job to help you fix it, but that's not my job to fix it. I'm not going home with them. But it is, you know, to refuse to participate in session is acting out. When one partner gets up and leaves and slams the door, it's acting out. When partners, this is the thing, I will make two, if a couple is really high conflict and they're arguing, fighting, I will make 2 attempts to intervene, and that's it. If they want to spend the rest of the session fighting, and I charge a lot of money, and it's their time, if that's what they want to do and how they want to spend their money, that's unfortunate, but I'm not going to attempt any further than that because I render myself impotent as a therapist. Now, and this is going to sound awful, but it's true. I've gotten up and walked out and gone to the bathroom when a couple won't stop fighting. And when I told the referring therapist that, she was like, "Margaret, that's so rude." And I was like, "Hey, they're wasting their money. They stopped fighting." Like, I had made 2 attempts. They weren't going to stop. I waited a few more minutes, and I was like, "Excuse me, I'm just going to run to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute." And I went to the bathroom, got some water, and I came back, and they were stunned. But it addressed the acting out. It's letting people know, I'm not going to let you misbehave here. Now, I'm not going to intervene on your partner's behalf, but you guys have to behave yourselves like adults and do the work, or you're wasting your time and money and my time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm going to try and combine a couple of questions together because they're kind of in the same vein. They're around this recording / this whole process associated with that as well too. So a couple of people have been wondering, so if you're having extended sessions, 2 to 4 hour sessions, and you're recording these sessions as well, kind of the follow-ups to that are like, how do you get your clients to buy into that process, like waive their, give you the rights to record, and that maybe with a consultation group, but also, the option of, like, how do you get compensated for that? Because that's an awful lot of work. And so it's things like insurance, for example. Insurance won't pay for but one unit typically per session, or, getting the client to pay for these longer sessions and allow for the recording, for example.
Yeah, so it's not cheap, and I have this kind of gets into my philosophy about money, the cost of therapy. I don't take insurance. I charge a lot of money, and there are some people that I see for very little amount of money. I do sliding scale, and I tell people that the therapy gods were very good to me when I had nothing and needed help, and I don't believe in pissing off the therapy gods. I believe in paying it forward, and so I do. I don't take insurance for a number of reasons. Part of that is just ethical. That's sounds kind of cocky, but excuse me, it's the reality. And again, people who have lots of money, who can afford to pay a lot of money out of pocket for couple therapy, I charge them a lot of money. And if there's somebody who wants couple therapy and I feel like I'm the person who can help them, then I will see them for a significantly reduced rate. The other thing is, there really is no such thing as couple therapy when it comes to insurance. It's individual therapy with a partner present. That is not couple therapy. And I have an ethical issue with that, because that goes against the whole no fault, we're in each other's care perspective when it comes to couples therapy. When it comes to the PACT model, that's saying that somebody's going to get a diagnosis and somebody else is not. And I take issue with that. Now, there are some PACT therapists who take insurance, and they're able to make it work. They don't do the longer sessions. I'll say there are some people that I won't do longer sessions with also, because one or both people don't have capacity. They start going offline, and over an hour is too long for them in terms of their arousal level. They start going into collapse, or they just, you know, they're just zapped, and there's no point going any further. That's not the majority of people, but it does happen. And so, you know, it's not cookie cutter. We have to go with what we've got. So there's some people that I'll see for shorter sessions. Oh, the videotape and the consent. So actually, a colleague of mine and I are doing an ethics training coming up, and we are in the process of planning it on best practices for using videotape in therapy, both individual and couples. So check my website coming up for that. But it depends on how you talk to them about it, and I give them the option. You know, I tell people you don't have to be videotaped, absolutely, and I explain to them, this is where I keep the videotape, this is what I do with the videotape, this is why I do use it. It makes me a better therapist, and you don't have to do it. Now, it will not cause a rupture in our therapeutic alliance for you to choose not to do that. It may mean that you don't get as good a therapy, because it means that I can't get consultation if I need it, or I can't get effective consultation if I need it. I'm also, one of the things I'm training in is ISTDP, which is Intensive Short-Term Dynamic Psychotherapy, and tons of videotaping. It's an individual therapy approach, and tons of videotape in that. It's also, we do a lot of deliberate practice, and videotape is one way of many of doing deliberate practice to becoming a better therapist. And just one other plug for videotape that I find, and this is a deliberate practice thing, but I find it incredibly effective. You know, those clients that you have that you get dysregulated in session with them. You know, of course, not that that's ever happened to me before, but I hear about it. Yeah, I mean, I've had individual clients who start projecting. I mean, they're projecting on me before they even make the appointment, and then they're continuing to project, and then they're, you know, screaming at the projection that they have, you know, placed on me, and that's pretty dysregulating. If you have videotape of it, you can go and watch little bits of videotape. There's some really specific ways to do that in deliberate practice, and build your tolerance. Really build your affect tolerance, so that the next time that shows up in your office, and it will again, that your affect tolerance, your capacity for that is a lot higher. So that's just one of many ways that videotape can be very effective.
So I think we only have time for one question. I think it's a good one to kind of wrap us up, and then I'll take us out. But where could somebody get training or learn more about this to be able to start feeling a little bit more comfortable applying it within their own practice?
Excellent. So Stan is doing some online training. If you go to the PACT Institute website, which I think is pactinstitute.com, or if you just put in the Googles, PACT and Stan Tatkin, a thing will come up with information about upcoming trainings. Everything changed, you know, everything's different now. And they're learning how to do training online. And most of it, you know, has not been online before, but there are upcoming trainings. And those are all through the PACT Institute. There are also consultation groups. My colleague Krista has a consultation group. I'm starting a consultation group for people who are interested in PACT therapy. That's not the same as training. I want to be very clear. I'm not an approved, there's like 3 approved PACT faculty members. I am not one of them. but it's a place to start. I strongly recommend listening to Your Brain on Love. It should be required listening for all human beings. It's not available in book form. You can get it at audible.com.
Okay. There is, just as an FYI, if you just go to pactinstitute.com, it's actually the Pediatric Autism Institute. So it's
Thank you.
pactinstitute.com.
Thank you. I frequently will put that in, but if I don't have it bookmarked, and then I'm like, yeah, this isn't it.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your week to share with us all this information about the PACT model. And thank you so much to everybody who chose to take their Friday afternoon to come and learn more about it as well. There were several questions that weren't able to be gotten to. So if you don't mind, Margaret, maybe I'll send those to you. And if you have
Absolutely.
a moment, kind of try and maybe respond to that, and I can send that out to the participants as well when we're all done. But
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great. I appreciate it.
Yes. So quick reminder to fill out the evaluation. It is, the information is in the chat. I'll also make sure I send that out in the email with the slides that are attached to it. But other than that, this has been wonderful. And yes, it was a great way to finish out the week, I think.
Good. Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Have
so
a good
much.
weekend.